Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, just give them the test? Okay then. Lazy manager won't listen that I haven't been trained on a job, ends up doing the job. Nothing says I can't wear a beard net with the rest of the guys, 25F. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Just give them the test? Okay then. Another story from my time as a first aid instructor, hurrah. Had to repost because I forgot about Rule 8. Whoops. Just as a quick introduction, at the time this story took place I was the youngest instructor within the brigade, at age 16 teaching people that were sometimes 3 times my age. However, as the youngest instructor, I was often the first choice when younger students were being taught for a course. That was the case in this session. This story comes from when I was co-teaching a rather large class with one of the master instructors for the brigade. Our students were a brigade of Navy cadets and their captain, sergeant? I don't know ranks honestly, but this guy might as well have been a drill sergeant with the way he was treating the cadets. We will call this fellow Kevin, simply because I can't think of a creative name for him. The course was a short one. CPR with AED training, roughly a 3-hour course with 1 break. We go over the ABCs, airway, breathing, circulation, choking, CPR in a pair, and how to use the automated external defibrillator, or AED. The instructions we got from their command were extremely specific, as this was the military, and had to follow exact instructions. For context, the master instructor was the first aid instructor for this base before anyone asks. Technically, Kevin outranked him, and I guess that makes me a civilian consultant? We got through the first part of the class with little issue, but Kevin was being a jerk towards us instructors, telling us it wasn't necessary to say that, that's common knowledge. Obviously he didn't want to be there. I wish I can say this isn't a common thing to experience while teaching these shorter lessons, but I'd be lying. After the break, we were going to be teaching the AED, and then have the final test. Kevin wasn't having it. The AED literally walks you through every single step, there is no need to go over it. It is true that AEDs do have voice directions instructing the user exactly how to use it, and visual references on the pads themselves on where to put them on the body. There are no settings on the AED other than the volume of the machine, it does all the readings themselves, and adjusts accordingly. In all terms, they are designed so that anyone can use them, and in some parts of Canada, you don't actually need a certification to be permitted to use them. However, as explained, this is technically a military course, and we needed to teach exactly the way the higher-ups tell us. We tried to explain that to Kevin, but he said just give them the test. As the master instructor was a lower rank than him, he had to obey. However, when the Kevin turned away to go have a smoke during the break, the master instructor took the remotes for the AED out of the cases, and threw one to me. I knew exactly what he wanted me to do. For context, the AEDs we use for training are not real AEDs. They are nothing more than glorified tape recorders that cost almost $500 per unit, plus the replacement pads. All they do is light up, convey the instructions on how to use it, and then it waits for 2 minutes to repeat the cycle. However, the remote for this thing is where things get interesting. One remote works on the nearest AED to it, not just the one it comes with. With the remote, we can simulate complications with the AED. Low batteries, moisture on the pads, too much hair on the body, no shock required. The AED is pretty much plug-in in use, but it is also intelligent enough when it was too dangerous to deliver a shock, and we were going to simulate that. Normally, we don't use these remotes for the final test, they are normally just used to show the different failures the machines can have, and how to fix them, but the master instructor seemed to want to stick it to Kevin. We applied a little moisture to the training dummies, and when the students returned from the break we explained we were going right to the hands-on test at their sergeant's request. We explained that the AED would walk everyone through how to use it, and handed them out. They were required to do 5 minutes of CPR in pairs for the hands-on test while using the AED, showing they are capable of doing it. We let them get through their first set of compressions, and had the AED activate once, and then we started using the remote. Suddenly, all the AEDs were freaking out, alarms everywhere. Moisture kept echoing through the room. Kevin asked us what was going on, but master instructor simply said you told us to give them the test, so we did. Only one of the pairs out of the 20 were able to understand what was happening, and took the towel that was provided to them in the AED kit and dry off the training dummy before continuing their 5 minutes. 2 students passed, 38 students failed that course. The master instructor told me that Kevin got chewed out by his superiors after he had to explain to them, and our organization, why nearly everyone in the course failed. 2 weeks later I was asked to return to the base and help teach the lesson again. Another easy paycheck, nothing to complain about there. The DS was again, but he was strangely quiet, and we got through the lesson proper in half the time it took when DS was interrupting every 5 minutes. As an added bonus, Kevin was so impressed by the class, he purchased pocket CPR masks for everyone in the class with his own money using the order form provided in the back of the first aid handbooks, giving me a fat commission check for the course as well. Master instructor told me that the superiors insisted the full commission went to me for being a civilian putting up with Kevin or something along those lines. I don't recall exactly why. Either way, more cash for me, and no complaints from me. Lazy manager won't listen that I haven't been trained on a job, ends up doing the job. Disclaimer, first time posting here after lurking for a while. To clarify, this was a little under 10 years ago, so some details might not be 100% accurate, but I will do my best. Also on mobile here, so please forgive any typos. At the time I was a high schooler in Texas and looking for a job to get some extra pocket change like a lot of high schoolers do. I ended up getting a job at a fast food place where people don't have designated official positions. The manager would make the schedule weekly, and you'd find out whether you were packing orders, working the drive-through window, working the inside register, backwash, doing the dishes, or working door, which essentially meant going out to cars in line taking their orders as our drive-through speaker didn't work, which also got us tips, so it wasn't all bad. Side note, the manager was a lazy femme hygiene product, who would sit in the office messing around with their fantasy football team and making sexual comments about the girls, some of which were high schoolers mind you. I recently learned that he was fired for having sex multiple times at the store with employees despite having a wife and kids. Anyway, usually new hires were trained for 9 total shifts with 2 shifts for each position on everything except the drive-through window, where you only get 1 as it's fairly easy to do once you know what you're doing. I was never actually trained on window because on my shift to learn how to do it the person responsible for backwash called in, and I was told to take their place as the new guy so the more experienced people could handle the part of the store directly impacting customers while understaffed. Fast forward to a Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. shift, which includes our busiest time of the week, the after-church lunch rush. When I got in and looked at the schedule, I was assigned to working window, and to the best of my memory the conversation went like this. Me, so I'm supposed to work window, but I never actually got trained on it. Manager, everyone gets trained on everything, you probably just don't remember it happening, but it's easy anyway. Me, but I didn't get trained on it. I had to go do backwash Bika dash. Manager, look, I have to help get ready for the lunch rush. You'll be fine. At that point I just decided to go attempt to work a station I didn't know how to do. The lunch rush hits and we're extremely busy as to be expected, and I'm doing my best to try and do a job I wasn't trained in. Window's job includes trying to cash out cars and give drinks to cars who ordered food, door handle just drink orders as they costed exactly $1, as well as handing out food when it's ready. Once you cashed out the car at the window, you're supposed to start going outside and handling the next car in line. This sped things up a lot so that when packing was done you'd probably hand out 2 to 3 orders in a row right after each other. Now, since I had never been trained on window, I didn't know that one. I was supposed to hand out drinks. I assumed door did that because I was told to get people drinks when trained on door. In retrospect, window probably didn't say anything when I was doing that because it just made their job easier, or to cash out more than the first car. Needless to say, things got really backed up really fast as I would constantly have people say where's our drinks, and would only do 1 car at a time because I didn't know any better. Fallout. 30 minutes into the rush, our drive-through line is wrapping around the building almost to the point where the car at the window can see the back of the line. The manager, probably seeing people leave the line because of how ridiculous the wait is, comes over to me and, "Manager, what the hell are you doing?" Me, I don't really know. I tried to tell you I didn't know how to do window. I'm taking the people's money and handing out the food. I think the door person keeps forgetting to give people their drinks. Manager, you're supposed to give people their drinks if they got food. Why aren't you cashing out more than one car at a time? Who trained you on window? Me, I tried to tell you, no one did, but you didn't listen. At that point he just told me to go help the person on door take orders, something I knew how to do, and he had to end up taking over window to try to begin to catch up. Not only that, but since we were so backed up, the lunch rush lasted at least an hour past its normal time, since for whatever reason people wanted to wait that long for our food. It definitely ruined his usual routine of sitting in the office looking at his phone. Also, I was trained on how to do window my very next shift. Nothing says I can't wear a beard net with the rest of the guys. 25 F. During undergrad I worked at a deli in a major supermarket. Most of my co-workers were also in college, and we all got along and generally had a good time. We usually didn't have too much trouble, but for some reason a couple of managers had decided that they didn't like one of my co-workers. Let's call him Corey. They would nitpick his work and give him a hard time for things the rest of us never got in trouble for. One morning, they decided that his 5 o'clock shadow warranted a beard net. Now this was an unusual request, considering that 1, no one without a beard had ever been told to do this before, and 2, he had barely any stubble, and 3, they made a big deal about it and seemed to be trying to make him feel bad about it. Cue the malicious compliance. Managers aside, I was the only female employee in the department at the time. So I stroll up and ask what's going on. They point out his stubble. I respond that I'm certain that I have eyebrow hairs longer than that, and in mock concern, I ask if I should be wearing my hairnet over them. They sort of look at each other and hesitantly say no. You don't need to do that. I ask why not, because it's likely that my eyebrow hairs would be in someone's food if we're worried about chin stubble. They persist that no, I shouldn't worry about it. Then I ask about the fine hairs on a woman's face. What about those? Should I be shaving? They're catching on now. They tell him to put on a beard net and leave. He does. And so do I. Solidarity. I don't think I've seen so many people double take and start laughing before. The customers and my indirect managers thought it was hilarious. When they would ask me about it, I would just say that I was protecting the food in the store from any potential hairs, real or imagined. By noon, when the original pair of managers returned, I was having a very good day. They begged me to take the beard net off, and I pointed out that there was nothing in the store policy saying that I couldn't wear PPE, which included beard nets. I wore it until the end of my shift that day. They never bothered Corey about his stubble after that. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.